Hey, this is Jenny Wickham, and I'm here to talk to you about the Brice Peninsula National Park in Tobermory, Ontario. So behind here is the layout of the park. As you can see, it's a huge peninsula. So the size of the park, it's actually 156 square kilometers, which makes it one of the largest protected areas in southern Ontario. It's pretty cool. So, who promoted the park? Well, in 2011, there was a short film that featured 11 of the national parks in Canada, and Brice Peninsula was one of them. It's called the National Parks Project. So it featured 3 musicians and 1 filmmaker, and what they did was they went around and they explored the park and helped promote it by making music and taking some cool video shots. And then what they used was the landforms to actually make different acoustics for their songs and sounds. So they use different caves, and they have a bunch of rocks and cool land masses that helps them create their music. Another place that promotes the park is the Brice Peninsula Tourist Association and Ferndale Information Center. There's a website where they post updates and information on the park, and that allows visitors to keep informed for their travels. So a little bit about the history of Brice Peninsula. It was officially founded in 1987, and since it is one of the largest protected areas in southern Ontario, it is actually considered to be part of the UNESCO's Niagara Escarpment World Biosphere Reserve, which is pretty cool. It keeps the land protected. And the park does offer many different outdoor activities such as camping, hiking, boat rides, snorkeling, sometimes scuba diving too, and there's also bird watching. Some other cool things you can do there is go rock climbing and check out their different cave systems. So how those came were in the past 10,000 years when the sea level adjusted, and what it did was form cabots, which are coral fossils, and made a bunch of different cliffs. So these cliffs are very huge, and they're like a really cool thing to check out, take some photography around there, and it's all at the backbone of the park. So a little bit more about the history of the park. It was actually the traditional home for the Saugeen Ojibwe First Nations tribe, which occupied the territory for centuries. What they did there was they protected over 200 species of birds and mammals, which is amazing, and they were able to preserve the land, which kept it clean and beautiful. And that's how it's so nice, and that's how it is today. So thanks to the tribe, we can experience this park. So, some about the geology of the park. The end of the peninsula features the Niagara Escarpment towering cliffs, which I said earlier were formed from the Cabot, and the water surrounding the end of the park is the mysterious Georgian Bay. That bay has over 5 shipwrecks. An interesting fact, in the water near Brice Peninsula, there's over 25 shipwrecks total. So at the west end of the park, the geology actually ranges from wetlands to lakes and globally rare ecosystems, which gives it some diverse plant and wildlife. There are actually over 40 species of wild orchids that live there. Some of the orchids' names are the lakeside daisy and the dwarf lake iris. That's pretty cool. And as you can see on the picture to the left, that is the grotto cave system on the edge of the peninsula, and it was once hidden because of the crustaceans, living corals, and mollusks. So when the sea began to dry up and the water level changed, the minerals dissolved and it hardened the rock, leaving this coral fossil or Cabot cliffs that I mentioned earlier. What also formed what most of the landforms at the park was the last ice age, which caused much of the physical geography. So you could check out those deep cave systems. Another interesting thing about the grotto is you can go inside of it and explore. As you can see in the picture, there are some people in there. In the National Parks Project, what the group of musicians did was they actually went inside and there were little pools of water and they went swimming in there and they used that for some of the acoustics. So some about the climate. It's a maritime climate zone, so it has cool summers and cool but not cold winters. The average summer is 62 degrees Fahrenheit, and the average winter temperature is just 19.9 degrees, which sounds pretty cold to me. Personally, I would be traveling there in the summer, but you know, those Canadians, they can handle the cool weather. Another thing about the best time to visit is like the spring and late autumn weather can be highly variable, but summer will be a bit busier, so you would definitely need to plan accordingly, according to your preferences. Rather, like if you'd like to travel there when there's not a lot of people, so you can experience like the full nature effect, you would definitely want to be going in early spring or late autumn, but you know, you have to watch out for the weather there. The winter also typically gets more Pacific air masses that leave warm and humid temperature. And the summer also gets these huge hot and humid air masses that come from the Pacific Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. So watch out for those. So some key features of the park. The time that the National Parks Project came out was also the 100th year anniversary of the creation of the National Parks of Canada system. So that's a pretty good promotion of the National Parks of Canada. And the Georgian Bay, which I mentioned earlier, has 5 shipwrecks hiding in their mysterious depths. So you can go snorkel and scuba dive in there and actually go in some of the ships, which is like amazing thing. I would love to do that someday. The northern tip of the park is one of the most visited areas due to its magnificent coral cliffs and cave system. They have the Cabot cliffs there and the Grotto Cave. So for over 100 years, the Cabot Head Lighthouse has stood guiding ships to port 80 feet above the waves. And you can actually still go visit the lighthouse, and it showcases views of the Georgian Bay and Niagara Escarpment. So, some key sections of the park to visit. The halfway log dump is essential because what it has is parking, restrooms, picnic areas where you can eat. It's pretty good for families to go there and set up and get some trail maps and such. Another cool place is the Singing Sands, which is it's a small ungroomed natural beach, and it also has a picnic area, but it's more barren, so it's like a cool place for you to go visit. It's very natural. They don't trim it, so you can see what like the natural land masses has created there. Some more sections of the park. They have the visitor center, which is pretty essential with the tower and trails in Tobermory. So you can go check out the trails there. You definitely don't want to get lost at this park. Being 156 square kilometers, it's very large. And if you check out the picture to the right, it has the grotto, which is one of the most popular caves at the park that you're allowed to go in and explore, where they showcased in the National Parks Project. They have some maps there, and there's actually a bunch of lakes in the park as well. So you can do anything here. There's another part of the park called the Flower Pot Island, which is right off the tip of the peninsula, and you can go visit there. They call it the Flower Pot Island because it comes from the 2 rock pillars on the eastern shore, which if you see in the image on the middle, you can check out those pillars, and they actually look like flower pots, so that's where it's got its name from, which is super cool. And here are my references. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope someday I can go visit this park. Thank you.